to Retro Hits. I have the great pleasure to have John Sauli from Rofo. How do I pronounce it, John? You could probably say it. Rofo.
Rofo. Yeah, no, that's good. That's
so
I've heard lots of different ways of pronouncing it.
Great. And well, the way I remember you, John, and correct me if I'm wrong, well, obviously in the early 80s, more high energy types of tracks. And you would have met, I believe you would have met Phony and Roland as well, part of the group. I think you were the second vocalist to join.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Well, you grew up on it. You know, Phony, I work with Phony and his executive producer Ramon Mueller and Phony the Wolf. They contacted me back in the 80s. I had just come from New York to Holland, and I was looking for work. So they contacted me, and I did some studio work with them, and that's how I got into the whole Rofo group. Yeah, and I think they had already had a good song, a good track that was released, and with the other singer, I had never met him before, and so he left the group, and they asked me to do the next songs. Yeah,
correct. And I think early on in your life, tell me if I'm right or wrong here, John, that you started in theatre in New York.
Musical theatre
here, and maybe let's go there. Tell us a little bit on your journey from there. How did you go from theatre into getting and singing to
well, I was into musical theater, so singing was a great part of it, a big part of it. So I had already taken a lot of classes in New York, and I had come to Europe just on vacation at first, and I wasn't planning on staying. But then when I met these guys, they were telling me, they were looking for a singer, and especially in those days, they were looking for native speakers. So that was good for me because I just came out of New York. I think my New York accent was even bigger then than it is now. But so I got into it that way because there wasn't much as far as musical theater here. I was a little naive when I came to Europe, and I thought I'll stay here and I'll just do some shows here. But there was very little as far as that in the Netherlands, and what the musicals that were here were also in Dutch, and I didn't speak Dutch when I came, so that was an obstacle. But then I realized, well, why don't I just do the singing part of it? And that's how I got into the singing, and studio work, and one thing led to another. Yeah.
And how did you find Rofo the journey? Because then you obviously went solo. Or did you go do solo whilst you were doing the projects with the guys as well? When did you start doing?
Well, it was kind of like in those days you did a lot of productions, because like the whole Milli Vanilli thing, like you were in the studio, so you did different songs and different tracks and different ways, and suddenly a few of the tracks would find following, and then they would export it, and then they would say, well, this track is doing very well in Japan and it's under your name, so we'll just keep it there as your name. So that's kind of how I got on a little bit sidetracked each time. And but the Rofo name kind of got stuck, and then I was doing promotion for that in the radio and other. In those days it wasn't that how would you say it, whereas now a lot of small little labels are all over the place. There's millions of small little record labels, but that back then it wasn't as prominent, and so they were kind of like new, and it was a new thing, and they were making connections with larger record companies, and it was an exciting time in the 80s as far as the music business, and the computers were coming in,
Speaking to other artists, they said it's the same thing. Obviously, music has moved on and everything like that. But what about the following? Do you get a lot of people this day and age still reach out to you, John? From
yes, 80s? Well, you called me, so thanks.
Hey, there's a start.
Thanks, John. But no, in fact, it started like in about I think the beginning of 2000, I was on the internet and,
Yep.
MySpace and that kind of thing. And suddenly people were reaching out to me from all these countries. And I'm thinking, who are these people?
Yep.
What do you want from me? And then they were asking me, did you do that music? Were you part of Rofo? You were the singer, weren't you? And I was like, yeah. And so I realized that, especially in Latin America, Mexico,
Huge.
the songs had done very well there, and I didn't really realize it at the time. I mean, they would tell you, but you didn't realize it
Yeah.
until you see people reaching out to you and saying, "Yes, your music was big here." Oh, we know you, and so I've been to Mexico City, I think about 5 times. So
With Patrick Miller in particular, with those
I've
shows.
done a show with Patrick Miller. Yes,
Yeah.
it's great. Oh, he's fantastic. It's I think they even had a show for like 10,000 people in the big arena, and it's a big thing. Yeah, no, he's very good on as far as the high energy music and Italo.
Absolutely.
That was quite an experience to see how how the music was there. I was actually very humble when I realized how important it was to a lot of people there.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it was like a good time, and but for them, it was really part of their life. You see people lined up outside of a discotheque trying to get in, and how they were just waiting hours just to get into there, just to be part of their music, and
it's
really
huge.
humbling. Yeah.
John, I've got to give you a big compliment.
Yes.
There's a song you did
Thank you.
that really blew my mind. I don't know if you know where I'm going to go with this. There's a guy named Carlos Perez. He sang the song Las Manos Cuantas. I hope I said that right. It is an absolute jet of a song.
Yeah.
Then you come along and said, sweet conversation. Please tell me, because I love listening to that track. It's actually my favorite.
Oh, thank you. That's nice to hear.
Yeah, I don't know if it was one of your major tracks, but if anyone's listening, I'll put it on the video. Sit with you when you actually did it, and how did you come to writing that song in English, by the way?
Well, Spanish? That's just it. It was a big hit for Carlos in Latin America, and so they came to me, and I still remember myself receiving the cassette tape with Carlos's voice on it and with his lyrics in Spanish, and I didn't speak Spanish at the time. So I'm listening to it, I'm thinking, what's this guy talking about? I don't know. And it's just a beautiful day, and I'm laying in the garden in the sun, and I'm just thinking, well, the music just kind of sounds like I want to talk to somebody. And I said, sweet conversation. And so they asked me to put English lyrics to it.
Yes.
And so it's like one of the first times I started writing lyrics. And since then, I've been writing a lot of songs. But yeah, that's how I got to that song. And then they released it too. They asked me to sing it, so I sang it, and it did quite well, even in Mexico.
Did it?
Where I didn't really expected, because Carlos, they all
know Carlos.
Carlos's song. But I guess it's just the rhythm and the song, and yeah, it's one of my favorites too. I like it.
Well, that's my question to you. Which one stands out? Out of all the, let's.
Out
I
of
know you're
all
doing
the
other
tracks,
sides of music in genre
yeah,
wise. Let's just keep the dance, high energy, that Euro or Italy type of flavor.
yeah.
Which one
I
stands
think
out
it,
to you?
I think it's still You've Got to Move It On, because it opened a
Yeah,
lot of
great
doors
track.
for
Yep,
me. In
yep,
fact, in a lot of country Europe, because I did it was successful in France and in
yep,
Spain, and so it opened a lot of doors for me as far as that. And it was also the first production I had done with Fanny de Wolf and Raymond
yep,
Mueller
yep.
at Infinity Records back then.
Mhm.
So, and yeah, it has a special thing. Yeah, a
Yeah,
special
that's fair enough.
thing for me. Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah.
terrific. And what are you doing this day and age, John? What's on the agenda
Who?
for John?
Well, like I said, I'm gonna be I'm still writing. I'm writing for other artists too, writing for
Oh, okay.
myself, and I'm also
Anyone of
producing
anyone of
some.
note? Anyone of note?
No, they're Dutch. I've done some things for Dutch artists here in the Netherlands. I have a few things that are on hold for some artists, so I can't talk about it, but
Okay,
I'd love to
fair
talk
enough.
about it. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so I've been doing that, and a lot of upcoming artists. I like it a lot because it's young people, young ideas,
Great.
trying to, use my old ideas, because a lot of the younger people now are still into the 80s music and 80s
I
sounds.
was going
And
to ask you, these guys that these
yeah.
projects, let's just call them projects.
Mm.
What style of genre will they be? Were they in that dance zone or completely different? Because I had to listen to a recent song. You did like a
Yeah.
really soul track. Is that a recent? I had a quick listen to. Was that a real
Um,
soul? You
yeah,
moved
well,
away.
I kind of mixed the different genres together. That's what I like doing at the time. I'm more or less doing music I like. It sounds
Absolutely.
crazy, but sometimes you have to think about, your audience and what they want to hear. And
Yep.
I like doing the old things, the things that brought me to where I am today. But on the other hand, I also like experimenting with newer things, and that's what I like. And I've been releasing that. And sometimes, like, it's all in you. I think that's the most recent thing I released. It's got
Yeah.
some soul elements in it,
Well, that's
and
what
at the same
I took
time,
out of it quickly when I had a quick listen to it. So I thought
yeah,
that's very
yeah.
different. So
Yeah, yeah, it's a way you have a good ear. Uh,
yeah.
so, and those are the things I've been doing. I'm even writing in Dutch, the Dutch language. So I just wrote with a Belgium artist.
Okay.
So I hope that's going to be released. Yeah, it's kind of like you're doing what you love, and you're
Yep.
just enjoying it, and that's pretty much where I am right now. And yeah, I'm very fortunate to be able to do it, and to keep doing it. And I try to, maybe twice a year, I do a gig. I call it a gig
Twice a
still.
year.
Yeah, it's like I just went to in March. I was in Los Angeles. They asked me
Yeah.
to come there, and the people are so overwhelmingly nice, and I feel like it's an honor to be able to do that, to
Great.
go back, and the people come up to you and say, well, your music was when I was 16, 17. I feel old then, of course, when
Yeah.
they say that, but
Well,
it
I hate
means
to
a
say
lot to a
I'm one
lot
of
of people.
those. I'm one of those that will come up to you and say
Okay.
that, John.
Well, we don't have to talk about age.
Um,
No,
but
but
yeah, that's correct. That was in the 80s. That's what it was. And look, the good thing is, I'm in the 50s and we're still talking about it. So the
right.
music has survived. If we can
Yeah.
revive it and bring it to this younger generation, and you mentioned that, I think it's fantastic. I think they've got this new generation sort of music. Have you sort of
Yeah.
had a go at that? And have you released any music potentially or anything like that in that dance environment genre?
Do you mean like house music
No. I'm still
or
keeping well
EDM or
as you know, this Italo disco new generation. I don't know if you said there's a lot of artists, the old artists, still doing some new music, but with a new sound, with new
okay.
synthesizers,
Yeah.
regenerated a little bit, makes it a bit more upbeat, I suppose, into the new sound.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of
Modern.
that. I don't know
Yeah.
if you I think it'd
Mm.
be perfect for you to read. I'm not sure if you've done that. Maybe you can share that with all the
Yeah.
viewers.
Yes, yeah. Well, in fact, with Infinity Records, I don't know if you know, not Infinity, I'm sorry, Eventi de
Event.
Zuro.
Yes,
in
Marcello.
in yes, Marcello. Oh, you know Marcello, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I did 2 tracks with them for Rofo, the name Rofo,
Okay.
and with Michiel van der Kuij and Eddie Miami. Um, that was the beginning of the year. They sent me 2 tracks, and I did the lyrics to it in the melody line, and
Yep.
we recorded it. And it's on vinyl now. It was just released
Yep.
the beginning of the year. Well, I'm saying the beginning of the year. I think it was like April.
Okay.
And so I'll be in November. I'll be doing that music, and it's got I guess it's more or less the old sound they tried to reproduce,
Yeah.
but
Correct.
at the
Keep
same
that
time,
style
of course,
alive
it has a lot
for
of
sure.
modern sounds in it. I
Yep.
don't know if that's what you mean,
That's
but
exactly
that's
what I mean. Yeah, because trying to
oh,
keep,
okay, yeah,
trying to keep that old, because let's be honest, that style of music didn't last for very, very long. It seems like music moved on very quick. Then it went to, the Italo or Euro
sorry,
music
you're
to that
breaking up a little bit. I'm missing.
Yep. Can you hear me? Are we back? Can you hear me?
Yes, now I got you.
You
Yeah,
got me? Okay.
yes.
I, I was just saying, John, that the music, that Italo music or the Euro music, didn't really last a long time, that genre.
No,
And it moved, and then you had that techno sort of in that dance environment really moved on. So I think it's great because the way I look at it, that type of music was uplifting, very happy. They were all good. There was nothing bad about any of the tracks. That's the way I found it. And I think a lot of viewers probably say the
yeah,
same thing to me. That's what I enjoyed. It's a shame it didn't continue. Um, I just fill you in a little bit in Australia. Unfortunately, in the 80s, that type of music didn't get a lot of Australian radio play. Otherwise, you guys would be a lot more popular here in Australia as well. Melbourne does
probably.
have a following of that type of music, the high energy, 80 Euro and Italo disco. There is if you like, a small sector of people that love that type of music. We have an artist
Mm.
here by the name of, I don't know if you know him, Peter Wilson.
Oh yes, yeah, I've seen. Well, I don't know
Peter,
him personally, but I've seen
yeah,
things he's
he's in
done.
Melbourne, and
Yeah.
obviously he does a lot of productions. He likes that style of music as well, and a lot of his productions are falling into that. So at the moment, I think he's in London with dealing with some of his production group. Anyway, it is what it is. But
Okay.
that just sort of gives you a little bit of a run. And I love that music to continue and being released because I'm happy
Mm.
to promote it as much as I can. I've got a radio station that runs 24/7, and I'm happy to plug any new music, John, that obviously gets released.
Oh,
And
great.
that's the whole
Mm.
purpose of us
Yeah.
interviewing and just telling people exactly what we can expect. So other than that, other than music, John, what do you
Yeah.
do? Tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe away from the music that we don't know, that people don't know, that you'd like
Yeah.
to
Well.
share. I can't say anything you don't want to share.
Oh,
Whatever you'd
oh,
like to
sure.
share.
No, of course. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Like I said, when I did the music in the 80s, that was great. And then suddenly it didn't turn out the way I had hoped it would be. And I wasn't as, getting the good gigs and as much playtime. And like you're saying, the Italo kind of, died out.
Yep. Yep.
And I just sort of kind of thought, what do I want to do with my life? And so I went back to school. And so I've worked in the medical field for about 25 years. And yeah, that's what I pretty much did the music as a hobby next to
Yes.
that. So I
You
would
were a
do
nurse,
some.
as far as I know. Is that right? Were you a nurse?
Yes, I did nursing. I
Yes.
worked in the operating rooms and anesthesia nurse, ICU nurse. So
Isn't
no, it
that
was a
different
very
from a
rewarding
singer
time in my
to an
life.
absolute? Did they know? Did
Yeah.
anyone know about your fame when you went to work in hospital? Did anyone know?
No, not really. And when I started getting to know people more, and I remember we would have, like, in the hospital where I worked, they would have like
Yeah.
a musical, or a musical group or whatever. And then I said, oh, that would be fine. I'd like
Yeah.
to do that. And I had a lot of fun. They were like, "Oh my God, you're like professional." I said, "Well, I used to do it, professionally." "Oh, really?" And then you
Uh,
start talking to people, and you
hello.
say, your productions, and then they
Yeah.
start going, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
So no, it was a lot of fun. But I've been now retired for it's going to be 8 years.
Okay.
So in the 8 years, I've been actually 100% with the music.
You've gone back to music.
To my first love. Yeah.
Yep.
And so I learned production.
Yep.
I went to school for music production. I'm actually an audio engineer. Officially, I have my diplomas if you want to see it on the wall.
Yep.
I don't know if you see it on the other side.
Believe it or not, I'm an audio engineer too, but I've never used it.
Oh, great.
I did
No?
that when I was I did that when I was 17. And
Really?
never, I did that first thing out of school. That's the first thing I did.
Okay.
Never used it, I'm afraid. But now it's changed, because I did mine in analog. Now it's all digital. I'm sure of it. It'll have to be.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, the basics is still, you know, frequencies are frequencies, whether they're, you know, coming out of a computer or out of a guitar. It's still the same, and you still have to train your ears. So I'm sure you didn't lose any of that.
No, 100%.
I mean, it's something, it's like anything, you get a diploma, but that doesn't mean, you know, you're suddenly, you know, the best engineer in the world.
No,
it's all about making, you know, miles and learning and learn every day. And like I said, I just had a camp with these young people and these whiz kids, you know, they're behind their laptops, and what they do in seconds, it took us like weeks in a studio to do. Absolutely. Back in the 80s. So it's like amazing what you can do at the moment. And I think if I was young at the moment now, it would be a totally different world for me. You know, I think I would have made other decisions or did other things. So, but you know, that's just in hindsight, and you look back and you think, well, if I had this computer in 1980, my life would be different, because they used to actually, you know, literally cut things, you know.
Yeah, I had to do that as part of my assignments, being audio.
Oh, yeah.
Had to cut audio, and I had to cut, believe it or not, I had to cut New Order, Blue Monday song as part of my assignment. There you go. Of being an audio engineer. Wow. That was fun.
Wow.
And that was a big song. One of the biggest, I think it's one of the most sold 12 inches worldwide. Anyway, it is what it is. So,
yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, but you know, it was a different world back then.
Yeah, it was.
You know, you studied your part, and if you made a mistake, everybody was kind of like, oh, we got to do it again, you know. And now it's like you can make mistakes, and so you take more chances. And I don't know if it's good or bad, but in any way,
mistakes weren't tolerated. Basically, back in the olden days, they weren't tolerated, and people were different. We were all in a different man. Now we've got wellness, all these other little bits, and that never existed in the 80s.
Oh, no.
So no, we are. We're living in different times, and probably better times. Let's be honest. People better and things like that. So, which is for the better.
As far as productions, I think you're not as totally dependent on a record company like you used to be. I mean, you know, they used to put the money up front, and they made the money off of it too, and that's good. But it was different, you know, and now you just the freedom and to do what you want to do. It's like amazing. So I don't know if it's better for the quality of everything, but
no. And just quickly, let's go Rofo again with the guys. Are you still in contact with the guys, Roland and Tony at all, or they're just?
Well, Ronnie, I never met the one person that started actually the Rofo.
Yep.
And but I met Funny from the beginning. I still have it like on Facebook, you know, that kind of thing. He lives in Belgium. So I live in Holland. So probably about a couple of hours drive if you.
Okay.
But you know, we contact that way.
Right.
But as far as you know, writing together or productions, no, at the moment. I think he's busy with other things too, and you know, I guess you grow apart after a while. You know, you see each other. You know, you're friendly and everything's cool, but yeah, you just have a different life, and that's good too. You know.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I'm out of questions now, John. Did you want to ask any, or would you like to say anything to the listeners?
I'm curious about your studio and what you're doing. That's a pretty
great
interesting
question. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. So basically, what I do is I run a 24/7 online radio station dedicated to the 70s, 80s, and the 90s. what we do basically is play plainly all dance music along all those genres.
Okay.
80s obviously is a sweet spot for me, and that's where I play a lot of that Euro, Italo, high energy type of music, and a lot of my listeners are from that basically. So look, that's my studio. I do play some music. I do have I have an Italo Disco New Generation show on that I do once a month as well. So any new material that come out, I actually play on the radio station. So that gives you an indication, all from Melbourne, Australia, which is probably going to surprise you. You probably never even knew you had someone from Melbourne, Australia reaching out to you, but there are some fans that do like you here, John. You lost me. Can you hear me?
Oh, well, that's good to know. I didn't know it. And I've never been to Australia, so I'd love to come one day. But yeah, it's an honor that you contacted me and that the fans still listen to the music, and I'd like to thank them too. Thank you very much for listening to the music and enjoying it. And I hope you keep enjoying it. And I hope I can still make things that people enjoy. And that's it. You said it's important.
It puts me in a special place. Like I said, it brings me back to when I was a teenager and remembering all those things. And that's my number one love is music. I can do other things in life, but I always come back to that. That's my number one point. Ever since I was probably 14, 15, when I first heard the music on a community radio station here in Melbourne, and it just grew from there. And here we are, 30 or 40 years later, still talking about it.
Still going strong.
Trying to keep it alive.
Keep it up. Keep it up. And like I said, it's an honor that I get the chance to speak to you and also indirectly to all your listeners. And
obviously we'll put this on Facebook, and then we'll share it on all our socials, which we'll share as well. And look, we'll just get some bit more exposure. Let's just push it as much as we possibly can, just to keep the music on. That's what it's all about. Exactly. That's what we can really do, John.
And good luck to you and your station, and I'll tune in once in a while. I try to keep up. I'm going to need you to do me a nice little jingle now, so I can play it on the station. So you can, whenever you've got some spare time, you can do the jingle for me, and I'll pop it on the station. So that's basically it, John. Look, thank you again for your time. Really, really appreciate it. We look forward to any new material, any of these projects you mentioned to me earlier on. Any of them are going to be dance related. I'm going to be happy to play them on the station and give them some exposure. That's very nice. Thank you.
Whatever they get is a bonus to the artists as well. So that's basically it.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your time.
Indeed. Interview. And we'll stay in touch. All right, John?
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Catch you later. Bye-bye. Bye.